Hi, thanks for stopping by my poster. My name is Maria Khoudary, and I'm currently working as the lab manager and a research assistant in Felipe de Brigard's Imagination and Modal Cognition Lab at Duke University. Today I'll be sharing with you the results of this functional neuroimaging investigation of moral foundations theory. Moral foundations theory, or MFT, posits that human morality is comprised of unique psychological modules that are innate and elaborated upon via cultural learning over the course of development. The individual foundations are grouped into superordinate categories, one that emphasizes the values of individual rights versus another that emphasizes group unity. It's a well-replicated finding that liberals tend to rely more heavily on individualizing foundations, whereas conservatives tend to weight all of the foundations equally when making moral judgments. Recently, there have been arguments for the inclusion of a seventh foundation that accommodates the unique ideological perspectives of libertarians. This project is not so much interested in the political dimensions of moral foundations theory, but rather we aim to test its claims of modularity and innateness. To do this, we collected functional neuroimaging data while participants made judgments of the moral foundations vignettes. This is a stimulus set that was designed and validated to activate only one foundation while not activating any of the others. This is an example of a purity violation. Participants had 6 seconds to make a judgment of the rightness or wrongness of the action depicted in the vignette. In between vignettes, participants completed an even-odd discrimination task to serve as the active baseline. After scanning, participants completed a surprise memory test, where they had to fill in the blank with the word or words of each of the vignettes that they saw in the scanner. We additionally included 7 to 8 lures per foundation. Each memory trial was followed by a confidence trial where they rated how confident they were in their memory response. Finally, participants completed a number of post-scan surveys, most notably the Interpersonal Reactivity Index and an emotion questionnaire where they rated how much each of 6 different emotions described their reactions to the vignettes. We used a mean-centered spatiotemporal partial least squares, or PLS, analysis of the neural data to assess MFT's claims of innateness and modularity. This is a data-driven technique that examines brain task covariance to identify unique latent variables that explain some portion of the total variance. Strong evidence in favor of moral foundations theory would be if the analysis returned 8 latent variables, each of which dissociated one of the foundations from all of the others. Weaker evidence would be if it returned 2 or 3 latent variables that differentiated the superordinate categories from each other. Our analysis returned 2 latent variables, but these did not fall along the lines of the superordinate categories. Rather, LV1 differentiated purity and harm from the grand mean. Activity related to this pattern was found bilaterally both in the inferior frontal gyrus and in the amygdala. LV2 differentiated social norms and fairness both from the grand mean and from each other. Activity related to fairness was found in the precuneus, the medial frontal gyrus, and the middle temporal gyrus. Activity related to social norms was found in the inferior parietal lobule and bilaterally in the insula. Finally, we ran a non-rotated PLS analysis that allowed us to contrast foundations of interest. We conducted 2 different superordinate contrasts, the first of which contrasted all 3 of the superordinate categories, the second of which included liberty along with the binding foundations. Both of these failed to reach significance. A linear mixed model confirmed that participants rated violations of the moral foundations as more morally wrong than violations of amoral social norms. A generalized linear mixed model of memory accuracy, here defined as hits and correct rejections, found that new vignettes were discriminated better than old vignettes, and that this was especially the case for purity vignettes. And another linear mixed model of memory confidence found that memory confidence was lower for new vignettes and for vignettes that were incorrectly identified as old or new. Additionally, confidence was lower overall for authority, loyalty, and physical harm vignettes. Finally, we conducted 2 classes of mixed model comparisons. All of our models had random intercepts for vignette and participant, so this is a comparison just between fixed effect structures. Additionally, All of our comparisons included a model with a global intercept, as well as a model with just the foundations as a fixed effect. The first round of model comparisons was interested in comparing the utility of the original superordinate categories versus the ones that were identified by our PLS analysis. We found that the neurally derived superordinate categories served as better fixed effects for moral judgments and for memory accuracy. We can see this by the fact that they had a lower AIC, a lower BIC, and a higher R-squared marginal. However, when it came to memory confidence, it didn't seem like there was much of a difference between the old and the new superordinate categories. Because LV1 seems to track something like an emotional empathetic response, we conducted a second round of model comparisons that investigated the utility of including information about emotional reactions and empathy to the models of our behavioral measures. We did this in two different ways. We built an additive model where the emotions and empathy scores were simply added to the fixed effect of the foundations, and we also built an interaction model where the emotion and empathy scores interacted with the foundations. We found that the additive model performed better than both the interaction model and the simple foundation model for moral judgments and memory accuracy. For confidence, however, it seemed that the model with just the foundations as a fixed effect was best for explaining this data. In summary, we found that neural activity reflects neither the superordinate nor the foundation level structure of moral foundations theory. Rather, it suggests reorganizing the superordinate structure as emotion, empathy, binding, and fairness. On a higher level, it seems that morality may not be as modular as argued by moral foundations theory. Rather, it seems like it might arise from more domain general processes like emotion, empathy, and conceptualization. Thank you so much for your time and your interest in this work. I'll be available throughout the poster session via chat to answer any questions you may have, or feel free to email me or DM me on Twitter if you have thoughts, comments, or whatever. We'll be releasing a preprint of this paper soon, so do let me know if you'd like to be notified when that happens, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your virtual CNS.